Namaskar, everyone. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are here today and pay my respect to elders past and present and the future ones which are going to come. History of Kashmir. Now, before I start that, today is 19th of January. And 19th of January for Kashmiri Pandits is a darkest day, I would say, in the whole history of our community, just because of the fact that we were forced to leave our ancestral homes, businesses, orchards, our whole memory of Kashmir. We just had been selectively killed, pinpointing Kashmiri Pandits, putting notices on their walls of their homes and asking them to leave in 24 hours, otherwise they will be killed. That is the persecution which we have gone through. And the whole reason of that was because we were Pandits, Hindus, because of our religion and the love for the country, the love for India. That was the reason. That were the two main primary reasons that we were targeted. Now, history of Kashmir is more than 5,000 years old. And if every Kashmiri family would have a Kashmiri Panchang at home, the year on that Panchang is 5097, which means it's way beyond 5097 also. But that is the living proof of how far we go in the history. But as I said, sadly, 19th of January 1990 was that day when selective killings of high-profile Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus was started. Be it the head of Doordarshan, be it the head of AG's office, people working for AG's office in Kashmir Valley. People like Tiklal Chaplu, who was the lone voice and leader of Kashmiri Pandits in Habakadal in Kashmir. So he was killed. He was, in fact, one of the first casualties of terrorism in the valley. So many incidents have happened with selective bias, selective killing, that one fine day and one fine night, in fact, 19th of January, everyone decided that we have to leave. Now, it's not easy for a person to leave his home, leaving everything behind and taking his kids and leave his ancestral home. It was not easy for us too. We have gone through a lot. We have had to restart our lives when we went to places like Jammu, Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, or wherever we got a footing at that point of time. And we have risen from there to celebrate or to commemorate, I would say, to this day, and to let our younger generation know that what has happened to us, because we need to keep it on. We need to tell our kids, we need to tell our future generations what has happened. So with that, we are a small knit of family members in Brisbane, out of which some people are here. Rakesh and Seema Vinjo are there, Amrita and Shankar Kota is there, Kiran Aswaniji is there, Gina is there too, and I am with my wife Nidhi. And there are others who might join in, but whoever is there is on the call right now. Again, I would just like to say with hand-folded commemoration for everyone who has put their lives at stake, who has been martyred, killed because of this radicalization, extremism in the homeland of ours. I bow my head for everyone who has lost their life and who has lost their living and livelihood also. I would like all of us to say a few words so that we put our voices together and contribute to the global commemoration which is happening all over the world as we speak now. There are so many events going on today that it's difficult to keep a track, but this is our initiative to put in our 2 cents to the same commemoration. Anyone of you can go first.
You can go. Sorry, Rakesh, you can start.
Okay.
first, thanks to all of you for organizing this this session. My little bit of memories about what happened in 1990. I remember I was in Delhi. I had just completed my uni and I had come to Delhi to look for a job. And my parents were in Kashmir. And suddenly, one day, I'm sitting at my home and I get a phone call from my mother that her cousin, probably you guys could know, Balkishan Ganju, was killed. He lived in a very the house which was surrounded by a lot of his friends. And when those terrorists came to his house and asked his wife that where is this Balkishan Ganju, the poor chap used to work for the PNT, which was a telecom department in Kashmir. And this guy just went upstairs and hid in a big drum, which was a rice drum. And some of his friends, which were in the other house, saw him hiding there. And they told these terrorists, hey, this guy has gone upstairs and hid in a drum. And then these gunpotters went upstairs and virtually showered hundreds of bullets on him and killed him there. And then took his wife upstairs and told, okay, now you eat this rice. Yeah, when I heard that, virtually it looked like the lights stopped for me. And I was not only worried about that family, but I was also worried about my parents. And finally, somehow my parents, I remember that night, took a taxi in midnight in 12 o'clock. And Justin Chupples came to Delhi. Luckily, they were safe, left everything behind. Now, leaving was one trauma, but then coming to the place, unknown place, was a bigger trauma than leaving Kashmir. It took them many, many years to settle down in the extreme temperatures, which were we, our families, our elders were not used to. Yeah, it has been pain since we left Kashmir, and that pain, we still carry that pain with us. Now, when Ashokji organized this session, so those old memories came back. So I can only pray to God that such things never happen to any society in the world. And we remember those things which happened to us, tell our stories to our kids, tell our stories to different people, and respect every community in the world and every human being in the world. Because we have gone through that trauma and we don't want anyone in the world should go through that trauma. Again, thanks, Ashokji, for organizing that session. Shankarji, you can go ahead.
Thanks, Rakeshji. Simaji, you want to go ahead before Shankar and Amrita pitch in? Just some thoughts.
Just yeah, well, like Rakesh said, it was a horrible time. It was actually a horrible time for us because myself, being a teenager myself, and not wanting to know the things around me, exploring, but we had to just pack up and leave in the middle of the night as well. I left with my mother, my grandmother, and my brother around 2 a.m. in the morning. The worst part was my grandmother crying all the way. We were driving like 9 hours to Jammu. She was crying all along. And it is a typical Kashmiri saying which says, "Oil nash." That's what she said all the time. "Oil nash go." It's a typical, it's a Kashmiri saying. And she was so upset. For her, it was like whole life she had left, there. And it was hard to come to the terms. So yeah, same trauma. We have been through that. You all know. And I really appreciate these sessions and, speaking publicly about it. And we want our children to know about it. We want them to know where we have come from and what is their history. It's very important. So thanks for organizing these sessions and happy to participate.
Thank you. Shankarji.
Namaskar. Thank you everyone for participating in this event, on this call. At the outset, I feel that the tragedy of 19 January is unbearable and unimaginable in any scheme or scenario for any civilization. It is incomprehensible to figure out for someone to actually what happened. Even still people are trying to figure out what caused it, and a lot of researches etc are being done, but the suffering of a community that lost its homeland, which now doesn't have any homeland or anywhere in the world. We are all across the world now, living in different parts of the world. We are here in Brisbane, etc. Right? So for me, very painful to see what happened to our community. I was very young at that time, but I still remember the memories where when the migrancy happened, and people who were very well off in their own way in Kashmir had to leave everything behind and live in those tents. I remember trying to, because we were already in Jammu at that time, trying to work with my family in trying to do fundraisers and whatever was possible within our little means to help. There, we were living in Jammu at that time. We had our family that came in from Kashmir, my aunts, uncles, everybody. So all living together, but there were a lot of people who did not have any place to live, ended up living in those tents in Muthi camp, and it was very, very harsh for them. They used to get bites from scorpions. There were some people who died because of those scorpion bite. There were no even basic hygiene facilities. That was the reality of the situation. So unfortunately at that time, there was little support. So these people who came after leaving everything behind had to fend for themselves. Those memories are still in my mind, very fresh. I do sometimes think about what happened and why it happened, and it's very difficult to get answers. So I like Rakesh ji said, I pray with an earnest heart that this does not get repeated anywhere in the world, and we hope humanity has a bit more compassion for each other, when it comes to looking after each other and not letting something of this sort happen, because friends were not friends anymore, and it was complete chaos. On that, thank you once again, and thanks for organizing this.
Thanks, Shankarji. Amritaji. Amritaji.
No, I think everybody has said what you can say. I don't.
Kiranji, your voice.
She is, Amrita is a bit emotional at the moment with everything that's being spoken.
That's fine. Kiranji, you want to go ahead? Your voice is cracking a bit, but you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, who can say it's almost 3 decades now? How many years? It seemed that it is just happened only just yesterday. Yeah, very tragic stories all the time, especially this day reminds us it was completely a darkest day for all Kashmiris. And that's where we always think that, oh gosh, one day we can go and just at least have a look and see how does this look like. I know people are sharing now lot of pictures about the streets, and recently somebody sent us yeah, some pictures about all those Habakadal, Ganpatiyar and other pictures, and it was really very heartfelting to see those beautiful, that used to be a beautiful houses, and especially those temples. Now they are just like nothing over there. Very, very tragic things to see now. Like we said that Kashmir was like, there's a comparison between Kashmir and like New Zealand or other places, but I'm still thinking, what can we tell our children? They even don't understand. Sometimes we say naru des orik, naru des yorik, and so because for us to explain the children about these things, they understand where we are really coming from, but at the same time they said that it was good that we moved from that hell, because we were always there in the minority, always sitting inside and just talking very quietly. "Sab kariye, baat mat karo zyada, wo sunenge." We were always, um, afraid for each and everything. I still remember ever when it used to be a cricket match between India or anybody, any part of the world. But when India was losing, and there was always like a Diwali fire, that big celebration all the time. And yes, killings and these things, who everybody knows what happened. My Masi, you might have heard about Sangrampura, where she was living, that Sangrampura, where 17 male members, somebody knocked the door and asked that we will protect you, promise we will not do anything to you, but there's a meeting outside for all the men. Come out and we're gonna decide how we're gonna protect all family members, all Kashmiri Pandits. So everybody go there in the field, and then they just killed them straightway and left these women and girls were there. I still remember these things. Uh, luckily, my Masi, she was there in Jammu, but her whole in-laws, her father-in-law, brother-in-law, everybody got killed, and still they are in shock. They are just like a vegetables. They don't celebrate. They don't like, they are totally now like, yes, they are still living, but they have lost everything. These are just a few names of Pandits who were killed by the militants between 1989 and 91. I would like to add some more, 900 more for you to get the complete picture. These women, and they were killed in the crossfires accidentally, but so many things. But at the end of the day, we can only say that may God give them, especially the families, strength, and those who really, we can't see them here, and it's really very heartbreaking. Let's pray all together and for their peace, and we should bless their soul. To be honest, let's do something like a small pray once we will finish this meeting. Let us, uh, whosoever wants to say something after that, we would like to only 2 or 3 lines of any Kashmiri, prayed for all the Kashmiris.
Thank you. Thank you, Karanji. I think while you were talking about what has happened there, means again, I vividly remember when I used to go to school from Habakadal to Karanagar.
Yeah.
There's so many instances, and Rakesh, you will also remember so many instances where you would get stuck on the road while there are two sides throwing stones at each other. There are bullets coming from other side of both the sides, and you are just walking towards home as a 10, 12, 14-year-old kid. So that trauma, we're carrying that trauma. Means we might not show it. We might be strong enough to be on this call and talk about all that, but that trauma is there somewhere at the back of the mind.
Yes.
And we all, means I think 400,000 people who have left Kashmir, each one of them, even though they might live in a small village in Kashmir or have a very small house, which nobody had a small house in Kashmir, by the way. Everyone had a 3-4 story building, a 3-4 story ancestral home, or they built their own double story houses. Even all of them would have those sad stories, sad memories to carry forward, which will get buried with them. And the whole purpose of doing these events is these webinars is that at least if we put that in front of our kids, the youngsters, they will know what has happened, and it goes from us to them, from them to the next generation, so that it never happens again. As Rakesh said, as Shankar and Amrita said, Kiranji said, hope this doesn't happen to our enemies also. Hope that with heartfelt message that it doesn't happen to anyone across the world, anyone, even our enemies. And that is the beauty of our culture, I would say, of our religion, that we can still say it after 32 years, after going through all this hell, that we are still saying that it should not happen to anyone. And that is the beauty of our culture and religion. With that, I think, I mean, everyone, I wanted, there were two other families who I wanted to be on the call, but because they had immediate fatalities in their home and they live in Brisbane, I thought they will join. Nonetheless, we are doing this commemoration for everyone, including theirs, who they have lost. And I think we need to keep doing this to keep the flame burning. Kiranji, I think Nidhi, you want to say something? Nidhi is quite emotional, so she doesn't want to say anything. Also, like Amrita. Kiranji, you want to take the lead and do the bhajan which you were referring to? I'm sure Shankar will be able to assist you from his end.
Anyone, I don't, to be honest, whatever, just 2 lines for their for the shanti, for those who got killed there, last mein hum wo karenge. But yeah, I know, but thanks everyone for sharing your stories and remember this day. I wish we had social media at that time, so that would have been make a big difference. Now we know that time these things were not available. So now we are sharing those things. But yeah, if you guys tell me any kind of, if you remember last time we sang one song, Man Mein Hai Vishwas wala gana bhi tha. We said that hum honge kamyab ek din, because everybody really want to say one day that we wish we can go one day, and we always think कि नहीं एक दिन ऐसा आएगा और हम अपने कश्मीर वापस जाएंगे. So that is another thing. But anyway, we can say, how about 5 times we would like to say this, and I know everybody sing that Shanti part is Om Bhurбhuvah. Are we all ready?
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, so 5 times we will repeat that, because I know it is, and normally people say 21 times or 12 times. I think 5 times would be fine. So let's start. Om
Bhurбhuvah Swaha Tatsavituर्vरेण्यं Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuvah Swaha Tatsavituर्vरेण्यं Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuvah Swaha Tatsavituर्vरेण्यं Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuvah Swaha Tatsavituर्vरेण्यं Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuvah Swaha Tatsavituर्vरेण्यं Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat.
I think I would like to add on a salutation to the goddess of Sharda. I would just try to read it also. Namaste Sharde Devi Kashmir Pur Vasani Tvahamaye Pratnaye Nitya Vidya Danche Dehi Me. Oh, salutations to it means salutations to the goddess Sharda who resides in Kashmir. I always beseech to gift me pure knowledge. I think with that, I wish that knowledge to be part of the entire world. And we would like to conclude this program with that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashutoji.
Thank you.